Hi everyone, my name is Joseph and welcome to Digimon Liberator, the novel portion, 3-1, Ryutaro. Excuse me, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but let me quickly spell that out. Ryutaro. And interestingly enough, I had to double check with the 2-1 and 1-1, but this one specifically states Digimon Liberator side story. So I do find that quite interesting, the fact that they're listing this as side story. In fact, you know what? Since I'm already right here anyways, let me just quickly check 1-1 right now and 2-1 as well. Thank you for your patience, everyone, as I quickly put them up. I have them. Yep, so right here we have Debug 1-1, Yuki. And then Debug 2-1, Rinrar. So again, I do find it kind of interesting that for this portion, it is 3-1, yet the writers are specifically putting side story. Despite this being a side story, I have to say, this might be my favorite chapter from the novel portion so far. Maybe it was called side story because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this chapter, or at least this half of this chapter, really did not have much battle going on. It was mostly dialogue. Excuse me, I feel like I slurred my words right there, pardon me. It was mostly dialogue, and they set up the battle at the end, but they never actually engaged in the actual mechanics of setting up the battle itself. So although a D-Dock is mentioned, it's more regards to the setting of where they're located at because, well, let's get into the story itself. So in this portion, we're introduced to a new character, another debug individual, or excuse me, another debugger, excuse me, by the name of Ryutaro, as already stated. And it begins by describing that essentially Ryutaro and Yuki, along with their Digimon Tyrannomon and Ipmon, they're in an area that's called, it's at the very start, let me quickly look it up, Avalon. And within Avalon, there's a huge D storage deck that's in the middle. In this location, it's also all white. Supposedly also has no walls as well. And also within this location is where the debuggers get their assignments and everything like that. So as always, let's get into the first quote that really stood out to me. So Ryutaro Williams, dressed in a fancy black jersey, military pants, and a red cap, alongside his dinosaur-type Tyrannomon, with his with his crimson hide and chiseled muscles, the Tyrannomon almost appears to be covered in armor, and his partner is likewise in peak physical condition. The pair are senior debuggers despite having joined the game following the official release, later than Yuki and Renar, who were beta testers. So this line, it's very small. I'll be frank with everyone, I only included the Ryutaro Williams and the Tyrannomon description since if I just got the line that I wanted by itself, I think it would have been too short of a quote. Specifically, the pair are senior debuggers despite having joined the game following the official release, later than Yuki and Renar, who are beta testers. That line really stood out to me because this, as a reader, tells me that although Ryu or Ryutaro joined the game quite later, not through the beta testing, he was skilled enough that although he didn't have that head start, he was able to quickly not just catch up to those who had a head start, but also get ahead of them a little bit as well. I think that's really cool just because as someone who does play video games, it's not uncommon where a lot of video games actually have a beta testing portion. In fact, really quickly, Space Marine 2, unfortunately, was going to have a beta test, but that got cancelled. What a beta test essentially entails is that it allows players to play the game before the official release. A really good example about this would be Destiny. Before Destiny 1 actually came out, they had beta testers playing with the game, with the build, and some of those beta testers, they've been sticking with Destiny for D1 and for Destiny 2 all the way up to the final shape that just released in June of this year. So I thought that was really cool because it made it feel a bit more immersive and it really made the world feel like it's connected to the real world, quote unquote. Because when one talks about immersion, it feels immersive because you're able to connect with that world. So I thought it was really cool. The next line that really stood out to me. Okay, guys, how about we check out the mission? Said Ryutaro with his usual enthusiasm. His fiery energy reminded one of a comic book hero, which was exactly what he aspired to be. It was clearly infectious as Yuki thrust a fist into the air. Alrighty. Ryutaro gave a cheerful grin back at her. It had taken him a while to realize that this was Yuki's way of saying, alright. Tyrannomon, however, looked vexed, tilted his head, and asked in a thick, bassy voice, why can't you just say, alright? To which Ipmon, standing with his hands on his hips, at Tyrannomon's knee level, let me reread that. To which Ipmon, standing with his hands on his hips at Tyrannomon's knee level, chimed in, my thoughts exactly. So I like this line because it helps to reinforce what's already been established with 1-1 and 1-1 again, the difference in attitude between Yuki and Ipman, yet despite that difference in attitude, they're still able to work together. But I like how it's not just Ipman who's not able to adapt quite 100%. It's also Terunomon. Obviously, I would argue, because if one reads this portion, I would say that Terunomon is a lot more similar to Ryutaro than to Yuki or to Rinwar. Yet, despite that similarity to Ryutaro or Ryu, right here, Terunomon is vexed and confused. He has that same energy, that same enthusiasm as Ryu. Yet at this instance, he's like, why can't you just say, alright? What's up with you saying, alrighty? I would argue for Terunomon and Ipman, it's just quote unquote too cute, right? But what I love about this line is that it reinforces what's been established already, but it gives us new detail. It gives us new information about this new character. Excuse me, I keep switching between Ryutaro and Ryu because the story itself switches between the two. And to be frank with everyone, I usually like to use the full name, but I don't think I'm saying it correctly, so I'll do my best to say Ryutaro. If anyone wants to correct me, please feel free to do so, but I might just switch to Ryu sometimes, but I might not be saying that correctly as well. I don't play Street Fighter. I know there's a whole debate about how to pronounce Ryu's name, Ryu or Ryu and so forth, right? I think it's spelled the same way, that's why I'm mentioning it. So hopefully that makes sense. But it gives us new information about Ryutaro, and that although he's an individual who has a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, as it's stated, he's very much acting like a comic book character. I would argue if someone said alrighty in front of Batman, for example, Batman will probably either ignore that statement or make a comment about what was just stated. But other comic book heroes, they will definitely embrace the whole alrighty comment. So when this instance, Ryu has the option of going, hey, I understand, Yuki. At first I didn't, but now I understand when she states alrighty. It's her way of agreeing with me. It's her way of saying alright. He doesn't get upset. I was gonna say pissy, but I don't think Terunomon or Ipman's pissy. They're just like confused, right? I love how Ryutaro instead smiles, he grins, because he understands that Yuki's already with him. They're on the same page. So really cool line, the reinforcement of the additional detail for Ryutaro's character. They had just returned from seeing Altea, the lead debugger, have been delegated a task that the GMs would usually handle had they not been too busy. Under undue circumstances, debuggers have to do more than play the game just like everyone else. However, when the GMs are overloaded, the debug team act as an extra pair of hands. So this line I actually took out on purpose because I know for the past couple of videos I've been saying how Liberator very much seems to focus more on characterization than narration. I think this might be a breadcrumb. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but the fact that it states that typically Grandmasters would be dealing with this situation. The situation for this 3-1 is being that a group of people are cornering winners of tournaments and taking their winnings away from them and then selling those winnings in the real world. So essentially scamming people, blackmailing people. So typically the Grandmasters would deal with that, but they have to regulate this to those who are working underneath them, right? Those who are not as high level as them. This tells me as a reader that, well, what are they? Where are they, and what are they doing? Obviously, this is a huge issue, the whole having to blackmail regular individuals. So why isn't the Grandmasters dealing with this? It might be because it's having to deal with the rogue NPCs, the wild Digimon that are present. So I like that a lot. I think it adds to the world building, and it tells us again that maybe something nefarious is going on underneath. Maybe not nefarious, but maybe something is building up. For me, that's cool world building. It really does remind me of. So pardon me, I just did finish the books for A Song of Ice and Fire, and the last two books, A Dance with Dragons and A Feast with Crows. A lot of fans, a lot of people in the community point out that those two books don't really push the plot forward, the overall narrative of A Song of Ice and Fire, and rather it includes a lot of world building to help flesh out the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, and also helps to set up already current plot points, but also set up new plot points as well. So I feel like this line is working in that vein as well. Obviously, to a lesser degree, I'm comparing a small passage to two whole novels, right? But I get the same impression that this is setting up something. We'll see if it does have any fruition in the future, any conclusion in the future. I don't think I pronounced fruition correctly, for pardon me. So continuing forward, these are some real low lives we're dealing with, cheating just to get that prize. Terunomon's angry words provoked firm nods from the others. Ipman was equally ruffled. Blackmailing players through cheats, it's just pathetic. I can't stand them seeing get away. I can't stand seeing them get away with this. Visibly outraged, Tyrannomon turned his head skywards and let out a little burst of fire, like a short sigh. So these lines, I am getting them. I'm cutting them up. The first line, there's a huge little portion where the characters are speaking, and then Ipmon speaks, and a huge little portion. The part that I really wanted to focus on was the reaction of Tyrannomon and Ipmon. I love how they're not having the human characters responding in this way, responding in such a downtrodden way. And the reason why I like that is because who's being affected here? Although, yeah, the Digimon are being affected, it's mostly the human players who are being the most affected from these individuals and what they're doing from their actions. So it would make a lot more sense if the human characters, if Ryutaro and Yuki were the ones who were quite upset about this. And I'm sure they are. It even states right there, when Tyrannomon makes a statement, the angry words provoke firm nods from the others. So firm nods. So everyone is totally in agreement with this. But by having the dialogue, by the writers having the Digimon highlight this atrocity, it really helps to add a lot of empathy to the Digimon. They're able to understand that it sucks. No one wants to be robbed, and it is quite sad. This is a whole game for people to have fun. Liberator, yet people are taking advantage and ruining the fun for others. I didn't read this portion, but because of this group, a lot of people are no longer participating in the tournaments. Because what's the point? If one wins, they're just gonna get cornered by this group and then blackmailed, and then all that hard work is just left for nothing, right? So they're ruining the fun of other people, and I love how it's the Digimon that are pointing this out, and they're visibly upset by it. I also love how, I'm not going to lie, when I first read this, visibly outraged Tyrannomon turned his head skywards. I thought it was going to say, let out a burp. I usually don't like that statement because when lets out a burp of fire, it just kind of feels like, I don't really care. I am invested, but I also could be a little bit half-arsed about it too. So a little bit like neutral by saying a burp of fire. But I love how instead it states, let out a little burst of fire, like a short sigh. Again, really emphasizing how Tyrannomon is disappointed in the behavior of this group of people. With Yuki and Ipmon growing increasingly rowdy, Ryutaro decided to nip a potential quarrel in the bud. He always strove to keep a level head, as outgrown adults should. Stating his policy, I know you got fire, but keep it inside of you for now. We need to stay cool. Says the guy always acting so fired up, commented his partner amusedly. That's nice of you to say, Tyrannomon, replied Ryutaro with an appreciative chuckle. There you go again, only hearing what you want to hear. Even when rebuking me, your words are always, let me start that over. Even when rebuking me, your words always improve my mood. You really are the ultimate partner, a constant boost to my motivation. It was way back that we first met. Back then, you were just a static illustration on the package of a portable LCD screen. I thought you were awesome even then, and now I have you beside me in the flesh and as my partner to boot. Who'd have thought such a dream come true situation was possible? It makes me insanely grateful to be a Digimon Liberator player and a member of the Debug team at that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all of this is Ryutaro thinking to himself. He's not stating it out loud, but I'm not gonna lie, I was really enjoying Ryutaro's characterization, and once I got to this passage, it just really cemented that he might be my favorite character from both the comic side and the novel portion. And what's so funny too is that I'm not typically into like the characters who wear like fatigues, military fatigues and stuff like that. But when the characterization is done well, I think it could really lead to a lot of fun. Like for example, I'm probably not saying his name correctly, but Chad or Shad from Mega Man Battle Network, he has fatigue pants. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Yu-Gi-Oh, even the character with the American bandana, he ends up redeeming himself a little bit at the end of his character arc. And now here we have again, he has military pants, military fatigues, but I'm really loving his character. Again, he might be my favorite character. I might be projecting a little bit because, again, when I think of Digimon, I truly do think of my own personal pets. And again, I've said this before, but when I think of my pets, I'm the type of individual that I don't just view them as like lesser. I view them as part of like my community. I don't call them my children or anything like that. I'm not that invested in my pets. Oh, that came out wrong, but I'm not that emotionally invested in my pets. But I still do love them. Again, I don't call them it. I call them by their gender, he and she. I have multiple cats, and I used to have my dog as well. So obviously I'm just projecting, but I just really like this line because if I could have my pets become like my quote unquote digital partners, that would be a dream come true. Especially because with the lore of Digimon, when they pass away, for the most part, it's not some of the iterations change this, but for the most part, usually when a Digimon passes away, their data just goes back into the Digitama and they're reborn again. It's the same individual that just actually relearn their memories. Anyways, but I just really did like this line. I also like the communication, the banter between Teramon and Ryutaro. The way that Teramon says, "So that's funny coming from you," and then Ryutaro, his reply is, "What does he say? That's nice of you to say, Tyrannomon. There you go again, only hearing what you want to hear." That just really shows that they understand each other really well. I would argue that Ryutaro understands that Tyrannomon is joking, poking fun at him a little bit. He's not being serious with his quote unquote compliment, but Ryutaro sees so much positivity. He views that comment, that joke, and instead views it as a compliment rather than the joke that it is, although he's aware that it is a joke. That's my interpretation. It's just, I really like that behavior from both of these individuals. I think it's really cool and really awesome. Moving forward, I heard already they posted a trade they posted a trade offer on social networks seeking out art chips, and lots of them. Enough to get 10 secret parallels, I think. That's right, and I agreed to the offer. You what? Huh? Ryu? Really? The three others expressed their disbelief and then fell silent. No one knew what to say next. Seeing their puzzled expressions, he calmly reiterated, "What's there to be confused about? I saw the trade offer online and I said yes before anyone else." Blindingly bright sunlight lit the area. Actually, before I continue, let me explain this part of the quote. I like it because, again, it shows that Ryutaro, it adds a lot of characterization to him. He's an individual who has a plan. And what was his plan? So the reason why they had to do this, they had to set up the meeting with this group. They can't just go after them. It's because unfortunately this group, in the way that they're cornering people, players, they're doing it in such a way that they being the debuggers, they can't gather any proof. They had to catch the people in the act, essentially. So that's why they're having to say yes to this trade deal and acting like they're actually interested. So yeah, so I like that for his characterization. And the next portion I like for the landscaping, the world building, essentially, the description of the world around them. Blindingly bright sunlight lit the area. It was even more intense from the reflections off the vast sandy coastline, stone buildings, and incessantly lapping waves. Rain never fell on Lapis Marine, nor did clouds ever cover its skies, and that was why people called it the ever sunny seascape. It's probably the most serene spot in Alaconia and attracts the most tourists than any other. Ryutaro was as much of a fan as anyone, and having to come here on this mission bothered him. Of all the places to meet these crooks, after succeeding in his bid for the prize item, he'd been told to collect it at the base of Lepus Stadium Tower. It was an audacious choice for meeting place, given that it was there where the tournament had been held. Doesn't this rankle you, Tyrannomon? Why did this lush area have to be the stage for their disgusting behavior? The thought made Ryutaro's guts churn. Don't get so worked up. Our mission would be the same wherever it was. That's a fair point. So I feel like a lot's going on with this line. First off, I love the description of the Lapis Marine. I would definitely want to visit this area if I could. I also like the description of the previous forest as well. I'm a big fan of greenery and anything that comes to nature, trail hikes, and also to video gaming and the landscape when it's nice, lush, and green. I always really do enjoy myself. One of my favorite memories from gaming recently, not recently, more from the past decade or so, was playing The Witcher 3, the complete edition, and traveling the north part of the base game. So if one didn't know, Hearts of Stone added more to the base map. I was exploring the extended portion of the base map, and I just loved how green everything was. Anyways, so that's why I'm a big fan of that passage. What I also like about this is that it adds further characterization to Ryutaro. He loves the landscape as well, so much so that it upsets him that these individuals are setting up the meeting at such a beautiful area. But then we also discover that besides for the beautification of this location, it's also the location where the tournament took place to begin with. So it's kind of like I wonder if the writers did this on purpose, because in case one didn't know, in psychology there's a saying that criminals, they have a tendency to return to the scene of the crime. So I wonder if that's what's going on right here. The tournament is probably where they started telling the winner It may not be the part. It may not be the actual alleyway, the actual corner where they robbed the individual, but it's where they started telling the individual that they wanted to rob from. So I think this passage adds so much to the landscape, to Ryu's characterization, and into this group as well. Really helping to emphasize that they really are a group of cran suckers. I could see why the group, our protagonists, are so upset by these adversaries. I also love Terutamon, how he's so aware of his partner. He's able to catch up on his, pick up on his emotional cues. Don't get so worked up. Our mission would be the same wherever it was. That's a fair point. I just love how they work together. Ryu, I forgot to mention, Epsilon message earlier with the warning, said Tyrannomon. Is that right, partner? What was it? If they try to run, we can't let them go towards Lepistadium Tower. This would have raised an eyebrow, but Tyrannomon explained immediately. They're going to test the guy who took down the rampaging NPC, see if he's cut out to be a debugger. They don't want any interference. So I'm pretty sure this is a reference to Shoto, which is his name Shoto? Oh gosh, I'm having lots of judgment. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Shoto. Excuse me. This is a reference to Shoto, I'm pretty sure, which I think is really cool. This fine line of connecting the fine line of connecting the plot details to the other story. This has been done before with 2-1, I believe it was, or maybe it was 1-1. I can't recall specifically, but it was really cool. It was very small, very minor, but still cool to see how our characters were described in the it's still cool to see how the characters from the webcomic portion being described in the novel portion too. Really does make it feel interconnected rather than separate and isolated. What I also like about this line as well is that it adds to Tyrannomon's characterization. He could have just made his statement and stayed quiet, and then his partner would have been like, well, why? And then he could have responded, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to explain, right? That would kind of show how Tyrannomon, although he's serious, he needs to be prodded sometimes to be taking the situation 100% seriously. In this instance, he gives the information, but then right away explains why he needs to share that information. I just feel like that's really cool. Just shows how Tyrannomon's on top of everything in the same way that his partner is. Again, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but the characterization really is making him seem similar to his partner, and I just really do enjoy and appreciate that. Realizing the situation was, so in this instance, a good context, Renoir has contacted Ryutaro, and things are not going as planned. Renoir was originally supposed to meet with only a couple of people from this group, but unfortunately there's more than 10. Why would they be more than 10? Obviously they know something is up, right? So continuing where I left off, realizing the situation wasn't good, Ryutaro chastised himself. I should have been the one to go. I knew it from the start. Of course, Renoir will look like an easy target compared to me. He obviously has more spare time. Plus, they would assume from the offer that he has tons of art chips. Still, he couldn't fully believe it. His body shook with rage as he tried to process just how low these people had stooped. It's easy to forget since he's a fellow debugger, but Renoir is only 11. And besides, Digimon Liberator is just a game. Realistic as it is, it's VR, not actual reality. The whole point is to enjoy ourselves. That goes especially for the younger players. To Ryutaro, the happiness was a sacred thing that he sure could believe anyone would trample upon. What happened to knowing my weakness? What happened to never failing? Man, what a joke. Renoir volunteered, sure, but I gave the green light. What a clown I feel like right now. This isn't how I'm supposed to do things. It's the opposite of what a superhero would have done. His self-directed rage was far from subsiding when his partner called out, "Save the reflection for later, Ryu." Okay, we better get meeting. We better get meeting. I was combining moving with amends. Okay, we better get moving. Time to make amends. So again, as I said in the previous passage, I like how it seems like Tyrannomon is able to pick up on Ryutaro's emotions, not the previous passage, the one before that, and they're able to really bounce off of one another. There's more evidence about that here, and the way that Tyrannomon, he's able to pick up that Ryu is beating himself up. He's obviously self-reflective and upset at the situation, and Tyrannomon is able to pick up on this and remind him, hey, we have to go save Rinwar, save the reflection for later, Ryu. And I love how Ryu, instead of getting upset, maybe going like, damn you, Tyrannomon, I'm thinking, but rather he states, okay, we better get moving. Or rather, it's ellipses, ... okay, we better get moving. That ellipses, I feel, adds to the to the weight, to the sentiment that Ryutaro is feeling at this moment. He's feeling heavy, but he also understands what he needs to do. So he's willing to go help his team, but at the same time, he's also still upset with himself. So that's what's making it a bit harder to do what he needs to do, even though he wants to do those actions. I just like it so much, and I love it when Digimon really emphasizes the partnership, and the relationship between the human and the digital partner. They always do such a great job with that in terms of, I liked it when it appeared in Seekers. I'm loving it here in Liberator, and it's always such a joy to watch in the actual anime as well. But yeah. Oh, so that was the last line that I have pulled up. And of course, as tradition, I'm going to go ahead and read the last passage that ends this part. So now we know the leader of this group. One of the group turned back to address excuse me, I can't pronounce words sometimes. One of the group turned back to address a bespectacled man wearing a suit who had the unmistakable air of a full-time office worker. He couldn't have been far from Ryutaro's age. Now that he looked at them all, they were all youngsters except for this Aruba. He was surely the leader. Aruba answered, "No, they haven't. Aside from that, let's assume that they do the work for the admins. Might it not be an issue if it emerged that there were undercover investigators posing as ordinary players? In fact, I think that could create quite the scandal. Knew they wouldn't lie down and roll over, so they think they can get away scot-free by taking advantage of our position. At least one option. Say, Aruba, why don't we settle this? Why don't we settle this like card gamers should? The only scandal here will be how rapidly that cockiness of yours vanishes once I beat you. Let's have ourselves a blazing hot battle, why don't we? To be continued." So, I'm not gonna lie, the way it ends, sometimes a dialogue I think could be a bit better. But all in all, I'm really looking forward to 3-1 because I'm looking forward to the further characterization. I keep saying that word, pardon me, but I need to look up a synonym. I'm really looking forward to the further fleshing out of these three individuals, Ryutaro, his partner Tyrannomon, and now Aruba as well. I wonder if Aruba will be a recurring character. I should look into the character list, or if he's just a minor antagonist that's just present for right now. So again, I'm not sure why they being the writers called this 3-1 a side story, but I hope this doesn't mean that Ryutaro won't be coming back as often in the future. But I'm really loving my time with him. I'm going to continue loving my time with him in 3-2 and hope that he returns in the future. So far, I also like how the writers are utilizing all these characters. I like how Renoir wasn't really present. He was discussed, but he doesn't really show himself until the end of the story. I think that's really cool. Again, it makes the story feel organic. It makes it feel like it's actually occurring. Makes it feel a bit more immersive than it typically would if everyone was just right here, kind of like a video game cutscene, and they all move together forward. But yeah, as always, I appreciate you listening / watching. My question for everyone is, what was your opinion of Ryutaro? Are you like me? Are you a huge fan of him? Or is he your favorite character from Liberator? Because I think he definitely is for me. And yeah, so again, to reiterate, my question for everyone is, what's your opinion about Ryutaro? And again, thank you so much for listening / watching. Have a prodigious day, and take care, everyone. Oh, actually, really quickly, I like this character so much, I was this close to wearing my, if one looks at the picture, actually, really quickly, let's discuss the picture really quickly that's present for 3-1. I really liked it. Once I read everything, and I got to that picture, I was like, hell yeah, what a badass picture. It has Ryutaro standing with Tyrannomon, and I noticed that I'm pretty sure he has a Vado bracelet on, the salmon pink / red one that was released for Gamamon. I think that's really cool, and I really appreciate that small detail, especially because like Renoir had the V-Pet, the original V-Pet, and then in Seekers, EG also had something. His name is EG, correct? Pardon me, but yeah, I believe it's EG. He also had something similar as well. An odor. I'm not well versed with the V-Pets, but the D-Cyber, I believe it's called, or something like that. But I'm loving how the writers are including the V-Pets in such ways where it includes. Let me rephrase that. I love the way the writers are using the V-Pets in such a way that they're adding it to the character's profile. Again, like with Renoir, with EG utilizing it as a tool, and now we have Ryutaro, which is wearing it. Who knows? It's probably just a fashion accessory in this world, but I just think it's really cool. Again, to reiterate, my question for everyone is, what's your opinion about Ryutaro? And again, have a prodigious day, and take care, everyone.